The full story of Queen Sheba, also known as the Queen of Saba, is rooted in various religious and historical texts, including the Bible, the Quran, and Ethiopian traditions. Below is a comprehensive account of her story across different traditions. 1. Biblical account: 1 Kings 10, 1-13, 2 Chronicles 9, 1-12. In the Bible, the Queen of Sheba is depicted as a wealthy and powerful ruler from the land of Sheba, which is often associated with either modern-day Ethiopia or Yemen. Hearing of the immense wisdom and wealth of King Solomon, she sets out on a journey to test his wisdom. She arrives in Jerusalem with a grand caravan, bringing valuable gifts such as spices, gold, and precious stones. When she meets Solomon, she asks him difficult and challenging questions. Solomon, renowned for his wisdom, answers all her questions to her satisfaction. She is astonished by Solomon's wisdom, the prosperity of his kingdom, and the grandeur of his court. The Queen of Sheba praises Solomon's wisdom and God's favor upon him, and she reciprocates by offering even more gifts. Before returning to her own land, she acknowledges the greatness of Solomon's wisdom and the prosperity of his reign. The encounter demonstrates the power of God, as Solomon's wisdom was granted by divine intervention. Second Quranic account, Surah An-Naml 27:38-40. In the Quran, the story of the Queen of Sheba is part of the narrative about the prophet Solomon, Sulaiman, who is granted the ability to communicate with animals and control the jinn, supernatural beings. The queen, who is the ruler of a kingdom known for its wealth, receives a letter from Solomon inviting her to submit to the worship of the one God. In the Quranic account, the queen is initially skeptical, but she decides to test Solomon's wisdom and power. Before she arrives in Jerusalem, Solomon asks his assembly who can bring him her throne. A powerful being, an ifrit, a type of jinn, offers to bring her throne before she even arrives, demonstrating Solomon's control over the supernatural. When the queen arrives and sees the throne, she is amazed. Solomon invites her into his palace, where the floor is made of glass, and the queen mistakenly thinks she is walking on water, leading her to praise Solomon's great wisdom and the power of God. Impressed by Solomon's wisdom, the queen acknowledges his divinely granted knowledge and submits to the one God, following Solomon's example. Third, Ethiopian tradition and the Kebra Nagast. In Ethiopian tradition, the story of Queen Sheba is closely tied to the Kebra Nagast, an important text in Ethiopian Christian literature. According to this tradition, the Queen of Sheba is called Makeda, and she ruled over the kingdom of Sheba, often located in what is now Ethiopia or the Arabian Peninsula. The story goes that Queen Makeda heard about King Solomon's wisdom and decided to visit him in Jerusalem. After their meeting, where they engaged in a deep exchange of knowledge, she was greatly impressed by Solomon's wisdom and his relationship with God. The two formed a bond, and eventually Queen Makeda became pregnant with Solomon's child. The child was named Menelik I, and according to Ethiopian legend, Menelik I later became the first emperor of Ethiopia. He is said to have brought the Ark of the Covenant from Jerusalem to Ethiopia, where it remained in the city of Axum. This connection between Solomon, the Queen of Sheba, and Ethiopia has become a central element of Ethiopian royal tradition, with the Solomonic dynasty claiming descent from this union. 4. Historical and cultural significance. The Queen of Sheba's story symbolizes a deep respect for wisdom, diplomacy, and the exchange of knowledge. She is often portrayed as a wise and autonomous ruler who values knowledge and seeks it across cultural boundaries. Her encounter with King Solomon is seen as a moment of cross-cultural exchange between two great civilizations. Historically, the Kingdom of Sheba is believed to have been a prosperous civilization involved in trade, especially in spices, frankincense, and myrrh. The exact location of Sheba remains debated, but it is traditionally thought to be in either southern Arabia, modern Yemen, or the Horn of Africa, modern Ethiopia. Conclusion: the story of Queen Sheba transcends religious and cultural boundaries and has been retold in various forms across time. Whether in the Bible, the Quran, or Ethiopian legend, the Queen of Sheba represents the pursuit of wisdom, the value of diplomacy, and the connection between different peoples. Her legendary visit to King Solomon continues to be a symbol of respect for knowledge, wealth, and the divine gift of wisdom. The story of Queen Saba, also known as the Queen of Sheba, is a prominent figure in several ancient texts, including the Bible, the Quran, and other historical and literary traditions. Here's a summary based on the most widely known accounts. Biblical account: 1 Kings 10:1 through 13, 2 Chronicles 9, 1 to 12. In the Bible, Queen Saba, or Sheba, is depicted as a wealthy and powerful queen from the kingdom of Sheba, which is generally believed to be in modern-day Ethiopia or Yemen. Hearing about the wisdom and wealth of King Solomon, she decided to visit him in Jerusalem to test his knowledge with difficult questions. She arrived with a large caravan, bringing gifts of spices, gold, and precious stones. King Solomon answered all her questions and showed her the splendor of his court. Impressed by his wisdom and the prosperity of his kingdom, the queen praised Solomon and gave him even more lavish gifts. She then returned to her kingdom, satisfied by her encounter with the wise king. Quranic account, Surah An-Naml 27:38-40. In the Quran, Queen Saba is also a notable figure, known as the Queen of Sheba. In this version, her story includes her interaction with the prophet Suleiman. The queen receives a letter from Solomon inviting her to submit to God's authority. She initially doubts the invitation, but ultimately decides to test Solomon's wisdom and power. In the Quran, Solomon is able to command the jinn and other supernatural beings. He demonstrates his power by bringing her throne to him before she even arrives, showing his dominion over the natural and supernatural world. The queen, impressed by Solomon's wisdom and the greatness of his kingdom, submits to God, acknowledging his supreme power. Other traditions. The story of the Queen of Sheba also appears in Ethiopian traditions, where she is known as Makeda. According to the Kebra Nagast, a 14th century Ethiopian text, Queen Makeda visited King Solomon in Jerusalem. Their encounter led to a union, and she later gave birth to a son, Menelik I, who is considered the first emperor of Ethiopia. This connection between the Queen of Sheba and Ethiopia is a cornerstone of the Ethiopian royal lineage. In ancient Arabian traditions, Sheba is sometimes associated with a wealthy, thriving kingdom, and the queen is seen as a wise and capable leader.
A true love night in a starlit place. Her eyes are whispers of distant lands. She holds the future in her hands. Under the moonlit sky, she dances free. Her laughter echoes like a secret sea. A mystery cloaked in silken dreams. She weaves her magic through the streams. Queen of Saba reigns the night, with a heart that shines so bright. She braids her tail in silver lines, in the sand of ancient times. Her footsteps mark the path unknown. A queen without a regal throne. She wears her power like a crown. In every smile she casts down, her footsteps mark the path unknown. A queen without a regal throne. She wears her power like a crown. In every smile she casts down. She speaks in riddles no one hears. Her wisdom bending through the years. A timeless queen in fleeting guise. She holds the truth behind her eyes.